Mason, you get to open for us on this
No,
podcast.
I won't do it. Not this time. I have to.
Yeah, he doesn't have the amazing title of host.
Well, when you're right, Bryce. I'll wait for us to all compose ourselves, Mason.
Good.
You good?
Yep.
We recording?
Yep.
At all times?
At all times.
Because we are Bryce's house and we're always on somebody's camera.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Effin' Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Camacho, and I'm verbalizing extra loud. Today we're talking about Repo, the genetic opera.
Mm-hmm.
I always have to double check on that.
There's an exclamation.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
also...
It's like Panic at the Disco.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's very similar. For some of our younger viewers, they once had an exclamation point attached to it whenever they were in the younger times.
Oh, did they take it out?
They took it out.
They
I had no
supposedly
idea.
did, but I'm pretty sure I still see it like on the radio whenever the description's up. I
Yeah.
still see the exclamation.
But we're not here to talk about Panic at the Disco. We're here to talk about Repo.
Next week.
Gosh, guys, where do we start on our opening thoughts? I'll lead the way. Right in the core.
Do we want to start with a little bit about what this movie is?
Yeah. Give it the intro.
You want to do it?
Well, it is a rock opera that, to me, feels like most of the time it's like a high production stage. Like, there's a lot of points where it really, like, you're obviously seeing them on a stage, or it's meant to be very similar to a stage. It was originally a stage production.
At the end it said like screenplay or something.
Yeah,
screenplay.
Yeah. So I mean, this was like a screenplay turned into a movie. How well they execute on that, I think we'll probably find out with your all's opinions. I enjoy it,
I was
but
not surprised at all. Well, you.
but I have a feeling it's probably not going to be the same always.
This movie was basically a post-apocalyptic or a dystopian
dystopian future.
Dystopian. Yeah, very dystopian.
where people are getting into debt and there's like a weird something coming over everyone's body, sort of.
Just their organs fail.
Organ
failure.
failure.
Yeah,
Organs
there's
just
like
fail.
a whole side beginning thing where it, in comic book style, tries to tell you everything that's going on in this world to establish things. So
I had a lot to say about that.
there's a lot of I'm not a big fan of the
Go through the backstory.
Right.
Anyway,
We'll get into our thoughts
Okay.
still
Yeah.
coming up.
So you have this world where gene failure is a thing. There's a company called Gene Co. Well, that wasn't gene failure, organ failure.
Organ
In any
failure.
case, Gene Co. shows up, starts making all of these organs to replace these failing parts for people, and they're like, oh, we can't afford them. So they offer them financing on it, but they still own the organs in these people. And that's where the whole repo aspect of the title comes in, where they get the government to legalize the repossession of body organs if the people that are paying on them stop paying.
In extremely gruesome fashion.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically owing the mob at some degree, and they treat it as such.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and one of our main characters is a repo man. And there's several moments where he's going through and just opening somebody up, ripping their heart out, and going with it.
intestines, sometimes spines.
Yeah.
just
Hearts,
anything.
bladder, stuff.
Yeah,
all
eyes
that.
get taken.
Yeah.
All the good stuff.
So that's kind of just a rough summary of Repo Man, Lawnmower Man, Repo Man. It's gonna just get all mixed up.
Well, there was a Repo Man.
There was the Repo Man,
Yeah.
right? Repo, the genetic opera. So let's start cracking into our thoughts, guys, because you guys couldn't even wait through the summary to start biting in.
All right, I'll go ahead because this is one of the first things. One of the things I really like about movies is if they show you what the world is about rather than expressly telling you.
Yeah.
Now, one of the movies I rated really highly that I was kind of comparing that aspect to was Kung Fu Panda 2, which is one of the ones, a movie I hold in very high esteem, only for this reason, because at the beginning of Kung Fu Panda 2, it very, very briefly gives you the background of the peacocks, how they deal with the world or whatever, and then it kind of goes away, which I kind of don't like that because it's very much just telling you.
Yeah.
But it's
You think it's like a cheap out.
yeah, but it's a very little exposition drop, which I can kind of get around. But in this one, they get all this exposition, and I feel like they handle it in the worst way by just dumping everything on you in this comic book style. I don't know. It almost doesn't fit tonally with me with the movie. To me, it doesn't. didn't like it. It took up a large segment of the time. I thought it went on
took
way
a
too
minute.
long.
It took
And then it even like brings it back, like almost in the middle of a scene when it's talking about the relationship between the girl, which again I'll get into that later, but I don't even remember their names honestly. I remember the mom's name was Marnie that died or whatever.
It's Shiloh.
But anyway, what they did that I think it was twice more afterward when they were talking about the rich guy's relationship with this family, and then how that family got there in the first place.
It's a few points where it kind of cuts back to the comic book art style, and it's mostly like transitions where it seems to do that. But yeah, even then, sometimes it would like throw in a little bit of like story
because it even cuts out the music entirely when it does that, like. Because the whole movie's told through song, and it cuts that out and then goes to the exposition with the comics, and I didn't like that.
I think it does have music playing, but yes,
it has music playing, but it's not like continuing the story.
Not lyrical.
It is it does kind of get into a little bit of a jarring transition where if you have a musical that's pretty musical throughout, and some musicals tend to be like 100% musical. There's not times where they ever drop a song, they ever drop a beat. Even in like in between songs, there's still everything's musically toned.
Like Les Mis is an example of relentless singing all the way through.
Well, this was like 98%.
It seemed like it, but it wasn't.
It seemed like it, but it did have enough downtime of just general conversation. It wasn't. I
must have missed that.
It wasn't a lot, but it was enough where it does teeter more towards a pure musical, I guess, if you will, compared to if you would say there's a couple musicals that very much have theatrical scenes in the middle, or Sweeney Todd is what I would use as an example. Sweeney Todd is very much musical score, scenes, musical score, scenes, and it kind of breathes a little bit better. This one, it felt like musical exposition, and I'm on the other side of it. I actually didn't mind the comic book ones, and maybe that's my preference with exposition when I see some of those stuff, like the artsy decisions. It's just like, here it is, here's the history pieces. It covers it very, not necessarily super quickly, but just enough to sit there and get into it. It never stayed longer than I thought it should have, but I will say, to Price's point, the tempo of the film does kind of go a little hit or miss during those moments. I think that it suffers a little bit more for it, and they could have kind of just did a full like recap on it, but this movie does feel very much like a movie on a budget. So I could see where instead of sitting here and creating a scene and doing the Sweeney Todd approach, they just said, let's just do comic book scenes, do some art, and then just kind of make that transition into it.
So the thing that I thought about, like with the comic book scenes, it definitely covered a lot of like we were talking about, either post-apocalyptic or dystopian, whatever. Like, but if you think about the time span of the entire movie, from the time basically the boss guy gets very ill, terminally ill, something that could not be fixed, could not be undone, or
which you wound up living throughout the entirety of the movie.
Which, to my point, might have been a total of like a few weeks.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't even know if it's a few weeks.
I think it makes like a
week.
Days.
Yeah.
Right.
Because basically the mob boss has 3 children, Paris Hilton being one, and the other 2 don't matter.
Other nameless actors, children 2 and 3.
And they all think that they're going to inherit all of this dude's wealth and become the leader of this company. And in his eyes, none of them are really worthy because they're all just sort of weird in their own ways and kind of...
I think it's an understatement.
Yeah, they're all very...
None of them are fit to run a business.
No. I wouldn't be in a room with any of the 3 if it came down to it, especially Luigi.
So,
he just murdered everybody.
To my point of like the comic book and like just kind of telling you the whole backstory, I don't mind it as much, mainly because this whole movie was really only about a week long. Like, it didn't need... this whole backstory of this family only to tell you of this next few years that they went through. It was just like, here's a backstory, here's this. I wouldn't blame the movie necessarily because of that. It was just a matter of like, I don't know. It kind of gave you the vibe that it was going for. Not a whole lot to swallow.
A lot of lower budget dystopian movies do have... Like, they do the same thing. They'll start off just being like, here is the world and the way it is and the why it's that way.
Yeah. And to be fair, if I'm taking a step back from like looking at a movie and being like a movie producer for this exact moment, and I know that I have a low budget movie where I am creating a dystopian future, do I waste money showing you an average everyday thing, or do I put it all into the dystopian future? 100%, that's probably the right decision because you're like, here it is, and even
that's the thing. You're watching a what would you call it, fantasy, sci-fi kind of thing. Like, your mind's already open from listening to the title, let alone getting 20 minutes into the movie. As soon as you suggested Repo the Genetic Opera, I was like, Here we
We're in
go.
for something real wacky.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So as soon as I plopped down in front of the television, I was just let it hit me. That's
Yeah.
fine. You know, so the whole comic. We shouldn't be talking about the comic book thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's just all of our
Yeah.
opinions on
Right.
it.
Next thing, you were talking about, like, you kept bringing up the budget. Like, it's a very low budget movie, very low budget. I'm telling you one thing that they spared no expense on in budget wise, and I think everybody here is going to agree on that.
Costume.
No, the
Oh.
gore. Good
Oh, yeah.
Lord, this guy hated Raw. And loves this movie. This movie was just gore porn.
There was
it
not
was.
a
It was
cannibal
a
involved in this
ridiculous
amount.
It,
amount.
it varies in a different way,
What do you
though.
mean you don't know? It's everywhere.
So,
It's everywhere.
I'm not going to speak for Nathan on this, but in comparison, it's the gore in Raw is much more literal and visceral and chewing
Real.
and eating and swallowing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more action behind it. Just slashing and killing people. Slashing and killing, we are American. We are
Yeah, that's
desensitized
just
to
like-
that.
Okay,
Slasher
speak for your
flick.
all selves,
Yeah.
I guess, because I was still very uncomfortable throughout that. It
Nah.
was, especially that scene
It was
where the
all
Repo
silly.
Man had the guy tied up or whatever on the torture
it's
table
like-
and was like cutting him
Puts his
open with his
hand
hand inside. I was like,
Yeah, and it's like
I don't
loosening
want to
that
see
raw.
this.
But see, the tone also sets the difference though. Like Raw is grounded in a very serious tone,
Yeah,
whereas
I
like
think that's part of it too.
the
for me.
genetic opera is like this opera thing. Everything's very dramatic in nature, so it reminded me very much of like if I was at a Guar concert and I was looking at that. Like I'm just like that, which I'm not entirely sure that Guar had nothing to do with this movie, having to look back on it, but. It is one of those things where it's like, yeah, tonally, I'm like, I'm not taking it very seriously, even if I know this person's just getting cut and it's just intestines and heart and stuff. I'm just like,
I very much disagree.
I guess I should have like thrown in the caveat of like, don't take this movie seriously.
But you shouldn't have to.
I
It's
don't-
just the
shouldn't
movie's
have to.
job, right? Which,
Yeah.
That's kind of like being told. I mean, like,
Yeah.
that's kind of explicit. Like, you know that, like, you shouldn't be taking this movie
if
seriously.
I'm watching a movie called Repo, the Genetic Opera, I shouldn't go in here expecting a Oscar award-winning drama by any means. Like, I should know the tone going in to be it's pretty lighthearted.
The music itself, you know, for musicals, as far as musicals go, like I normally don't like the music a whole lot.
Mhm.
This one was actually kind of like relatable, I guess, because it was like
Yeah.
more rockish,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and it was just like, you know, obviously it's a rock ballad or a rock opera, but like I don't know, I wasn't sitting
That's
here
the
like
thing
"Man,
that-
this sucks. Like
like-
I actually enjoyed the music.
Mhm.
That's the thing. As like a teen, whenever I watched it, that
Yeah.
I liked about it probably the most.
Yeah.
You probably
Which
did.
is
I remember.
understandable.
You were
but-
like you were in a very gothic phase. at
Yeah,
that
If you're a
point.
goth teen in this time,
The-
this
oh,
is
yeah.
the movie for you right
Yeah.
now. Go
Yeah.
look up 2008's Repo, the
Oh,
Genetic
very
Opera.
much. If you still shop at Hot Topic and love those deals and shirts, yeah.
Wow,
this
we
is
don't
your
know
movie.
the Hot Topic crap now. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
That is
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like could be like I don't know.
If you shopped at Hot Topic in 2008 or prior, this might be a movie for you. But yeah, so I would agree. The music is one of those things that rock operas. I don't know. It's so much easier to get away with it because it's not great music. I wouldn't find myself downloading the album and then like listening now. Like if I was like Danger back in town, I'm sure this would have been like something I'd
For
be like,
sure, I would've-
I want this album.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nowadays it's one of those things where I'm like, this is just good enough to get me through the movie, and I don't feel like I'm being upset or it's a drag or anything. Like some musicals, I mean, if you don't, there's a couple cardinal rules I've said of genres that just really make or break a movie. If you go into a musical and you don't like the music, you're in for a bad time.
Yeah.
If you go into a horror and it's not scary, or if you go into a comedy and it's not funny to you, you're in for a bad time all around.
Yeah.
And the rock opera does just enough to keep me invested, and I don't like, even if it's like cornily bad, I think on paper, it's like meant to be that way. And I've
Yeah.
always said if that's their intention, that's fine. Like I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
And I fit in that group, and I love, like, that's the main thing I listen to is just all rock music, but I detest movies that sing throughout the whole thing. I do. I've never liked them. I didn't like Greatest Showman, and that had more dialogue, which is why I rated it higher than I'm definitely going to rate this movie.
Well,
I like
Well,
some of the
I mean,
songs.
the Greatest
Showman is a
Showman.
far better movie.
Greatest
than
Showman
this.
is a very good
Yeah.
musical.
If you were to look at the budget and the cast,
Yeah.
literally
Oh, that
any
too.
aspect of the two, like Greatest Showman is the prize pony versus Repo, which is still the B movie under the radar.
Let's put it this way. I guarantee that The Greatest Showman's budget for just hiring Hugh Jackman was more than the entirety budget of all of
For sure.
Repo, the Genetic Opera. And it
Yeah.
had Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer about 10 years after Buffy the
Is
Vampire
that
Slayer
him?
went off. Oh yeah, he was Repo Man.
I thought that he looked
Oh.
super familiar.
Oh yeah, he's Giles from Buffy.
Also, it had the girl from Spy
Spy
Kids,
Kids,
Alexa Panavega.
That was her?
That was
Oh, yeah.
her.
She looked familiar.
Yeah. So
Shiloh.
if you watch Spy Kids at any point in your life, this could possibly maybe be a movie for you. And if you
Yeah.
like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and you want to see Giles still be a human Slayer,
Even
now,
more kick ass.
super more kick-ass now. This could be a movie for you. I'm not gonna fool you.
We're just gonna keep pitching it at you
Yeah.
until you watch it.
Yeah. So
I think I don't know. I think the tempo went pretty well. Like I said, at the very end, I just had to sit there and think, okay, this movie only went for this long. I enjoyed it overall. I really did. I didn't think I would. I think that's kind of my target from now on. If I don't expect much from a movie, I'm probably gonna watch it and walk out having a higher bid. I don't know.
fair. I mean, this isn't a long movie by any means. It's like an hour and a half. It's
It
very
didn't
nice.
feel
short,
like that
sweet
even.
one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go in that. But I guess, do we want to kind of go into the score parts for it? It seems like we're transitioning to that. Kind of carried more pros and cons while
I
we're
can't
there.
think of much else to talk about this movie too.
I mean, the story was
It is.
not
The-
that
yeah.
exceptional.
Well, I thought it had a good kind of twist-ish
Yeah.
in the middle of it, where it was like, oh, the mob boss is actually in love with the girl's mother.
Who died.
Who
that the
actually-
Repo man- Yeah.
Who died, but he
He
Poisoned
actually
her.
poisoned. Well, he poisoned her new lover at the time.
No,
That's what I read.
because he was in love with the girl. The girl spurned him to go for the other guy.
For Giles.
Okay.
And then
And he was spiteful.
and
so
then they got married. Then he got spiteful, and he was like, if I can't
whenever
have
she
her.
was like about to give birth.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then he thought that he had like somehow killed her
Right.
by like
Dang, you misgot that one.
Yeah.
Well, no. So I thought the mob boss. I thought the woman was in love with the mob boss, but then she fell in love with this other guy, and then
Okay,
this guy
correct
by
that part.
proxy poisoned the girl through him. Like he gave the Giles certain medication.
Oh, mostly right. No, he didn't do it through Giles. He did just poison her, and it
Okay.
made it like Giles believed that it was him during this time. So,
I
yeah.
gotcha.
So mostly correct, like 85%
Gotcha.
correct on that one.
And that's supposedly the reason why he became a Repo Man, was to hide that because he didn't want.
Yeah, that was his
he didn't
debt,
want that to be exposed.
Yeah.
That he had been the one that botched and killed his wife.
Yeah.
But also, he is such a ruthless murderer that it's he just has these moments where
It's
he
a
has a
hypocrite,
turn where
yeah.
his voice just gets much more sinister,
Mhm.
and he's just like, I'm gonna be a monster.
Yeah.
And
pretty
then
much.
he goes slicing the streets up.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and start and run around the table because Nathan's adequately
Okay.
placed at the end of it. I think from this point forward, we might just have whatever's sitting at this chair is just going to be first, and then wheel it around, and then
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, that works. So, see, we're figuring stuff out as we go here at the FN Movie Podcast. I'm gonna give this movie a 7. I enjoyed it. It was short and to the point. If it had stayed longer, I probably would score it lower. If a handful of things that happen that don't happen for this movie happen, I'd probably score it lower. But it's 7. It's just good enough. It's one of those movies that have aged and it's B movie, and it's it is bad in a way, but it's intentionally bad in its way, which is fine. Again, if that's what you seek out to do, and you know it because it is very much into its own joke. This is an inside joke on itself, and that's fine. I get that tonally, it landed fine with me. The rock opera pieces I thought jived well. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but it got me through this movie, and it's an hour and a half film, so it was just boom. I had a couple laughs in there. I didn't necessarily feel great character depth or development or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely not an excelling movie by any means, but it's not a bad movie either.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that there's chunks of bad parts that I ever said, okay, this part was miserable, this part miserable. It did just enough for me to sit there and just be at a nice solid 7.
Well, I haven't got to speak my piece too much about it, and my score probably. I'm not doing it for shock factor or anything. I really did not like this movie. You said it was an inside joke. I was on the outside. You said there was no miserable point for you. I was miserable throughout the entirety of the movie. Literally the entirety of the movie. I detested this movie. I didn't like the tone. I hated the gore. I didn't like the music. I was on board with the Grave Robber's voice or whatever.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
He
his
probably had
segments.
the best.
Grave
song.
Robber had the best song.
But
Yeah.
it kept going. There was no respite from the music.
Mhm.
And I felt like I was in like an hour and a half like Slayer show or something. Like Slayer for a little bit, I'm all right with. An hour and a half of it, I'm gonna get worn out, and I'm gonna hate that band after a while. So to compare it, I was like, the benchmark of a bad movie right now with everyone is Lawnmower Man. And I was looking at it, and I just looked at it before.
This
is Silver Fox catch it real quick.
I went Lawnmower Man, I went Repo. And it's like, which one did I honestly dislike more? I did laugh some at Lawnmower Man because I was laughing at the movie.
Yeah.
Now, Repo, I did enjoy the grave robber scenes a little bit. But Lawnmower Man beats it for me.
Oh,
It does.
All right.
I haven't got to speak my piece about it. You know, probably don't get this.
Take your time.
I very much dislike this movie, and I could go more into it, but still, in my gut feeling, I'm giving this a 1.5.
I was just about to say Price gave Lawnmower Man a 2. And he was sitting here saying it's better.
Right.
Yeah,
1.5.
So even the like scene with her like in her bedroom and it suddenly turns into a rock concert and the dad's like having to push away all
Yeah,
the
that's
group and
17.
stuff. Like that's my favorite one because I just think that's hilarious how it like the whole thing just turns into like very clearly. I feel like if this were actually a stage production and I was like watching this on Broadway,
I think on a stage it would look.
This would be a blast.
I agree.
like this would be such a fun thing to watch.
Right.
But I'll watch it on the screen now. It was not for me. Again, this is my personal score. Like if I was judging it for like a movie wise for somebody else, like somebody like maybe like Nathan, if I watched this, I was like, I hated this movie, but I could see Nathan really liking it. I'd give it like maybe a 6 or something. But this is my personal score, and this is for me. And it wasn't for me. It was not.
I kind of thought from the beginning it wouldn't be. I thought maybe the music might do something for you. But
We haven't really been able to figure Price out many times in this thing.
That's fine.
And we keep trying. I think we can keep trying. It's just a matter of
You just got to put on a good animated
dabbling.
movie, which we haven't necessarily reviewed on the podcast. Maybe we'll do some retroactive reviews down the road. We kind of covered it in our last episode, just a bunch of our scores from the previous points to catch everybody up for all the hard work we've been doing off camera.
Yeah.
But so far we've knocked down that you can give Price an animated movie and he will not give it less than a 7 at any given point.
Guaranteed.
You can put Baby Shark on an episode of that, the whole first season. By God, it's at least 7.5 for Price.
Not bad with that, but that's enough about me.
Right, 1.5 from Price.
So this movie, like I said, went into it very, very small opinions. As soon as it started, I really enjoyed the intro to it. Got me right where I needed it to be. Very simple film. I tried my hardest to, roll with the punches with all of the songs. There were a couple lullish songs compared to like The Grave Robber. 17 song was really, you know what I mean? Like there were some really good ones.
Some real highlights, but then also like the ones with the siblings.
Yeah, those were bad.
Those were just bad songs.
That one where they're in like the sewer underground, or whatever, with the two brothers.
The Mark It Up song, I hate that song.
See, I hated the one with the two brothers, and they're like in there with the nurses, and they're like dancing around and stuff.
That was kind of silly.
I wanted to puke, but sorry, go ahead.
But like the whole flow of the movie, I thought was actually pretty okay. The storyline was just enough to keep me interested. Like you said, I don't know how actually long it was.
Like
hour and a half.
Hour and a half was perfectly fine by me.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it went on too long. I actually watched it in 2 different sittings, which I was really tired the first time, which again wasn't its fault. I was already tired, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily suggest this movie to anyone because
This is
it's
what you
not
feel about
for anyone. Exactly.
It's what you
Me
feel about
personally, walking away from it, I liked the characters. I knew Giles from somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna have to land at an 8, which is pretty odd.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. It was a fun ride.
Yeah.
I was talking to Dylan about it, and I don't know. I think it checked a lot of boxes, and I don't know. I might actually watch it down the road again. Who knows?
Yeah. This is one of those ones like, off chance there's a couple friends I could see myself rewatching this, be like, this seems in your wheelhouse.
This might not be another movie that I sit down and like really study.
No, yeah, I don't think there's much more to study. If you watch it the first time, you're not going to sit there and go back the second time and be like, there's so much more to devolve with this.
Exactly.
It ain't that movie.
You put it on if you're cooking.
Yeah.
You put it on if you're cleaning the house. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be enough to do for that. So that's my score.
Well, I I really was coming into this expecting that there was going to be a lot of hate.
We caught that vibe
Yeah,
when
no,
you
we-
first
like,
mentioned it. Believe us.
Even when I first mentioned it, I was like, this is not going to go well. But I'm
Just Clay pitching it over.
You just shot a harpoon into just a wild ocean. You hit a shark or two.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it, but you just shot it straight up and it landed.
I was the only one that pulled the trigger on
Yeah.
that one.
You're the minnow that just went.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, this one for me, it's like it was in my wheelhouse as a teenager, of course, and that's when
I
I
see
watched
that.
it, and I loved it back then. I did listen to the music in my car, like I had the music, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. Watching it again now, a lot of it just. I caught myself laughing at the fact that like this definitely used to be my kind of movie.
Man, I suck.
That was such a bastard. Yeah.
Yeah, it isn't necessarily the kind of thing that I would be like super excited to watch now. But all that being said, as you guys said, it's fun.
It
Like
is
it's
fun.
fun, and I was laughing at certain points. I enjoyed it pretty much the whole way through. And there's a couple of songs that were kind of meh, but for the most part, I think it was pretty great. And if there's ever like a stage production of this, I'm definitely
You're going to see it. You want
Oh,
to
yeah.
be in the audience.
If you see Nashville have this one come through, it's likely to have me and Mason, and then definitely not Price.
Yeah.
No, we'll tell Price it's Shrek on ice.
Yeah.
And he'll be there.
Yeah. Tell him it's Kung Fu Panda 6 on ice.
Oh yeah.
He wouldn't even know. It's not.
So score wise for me, it lands at like a 8.5.
Nice.
Yeah, I kind of want to give it a little bit more for that nostalgic reason, but just from the watch I had of it this time, I think I'm going to leave it there.
You can kind of probably see where you've grown up with it and kind
Yeah.
of seen some of the parts you're like, all right, this isn't as good as I.
That's remember me kind of thing.
Yeah, it's Remember Me for sure. It's one of those ones where it's you go back and
It's
you're
not
like,
nearly as good as it used to be, but it holds true.
it's still a fun ride for me.
Yeah.
And it was a fun ride for Robert Pattinson until the landing.
Until the last part of the ride.
Gosh. Sorry, I'm thinking about just Robert Pattinson getting hit by a plane on 9/11. Happy 4th of July, everybody. So this is the Epic Movie Podcast. We are around again.
That's not it yet.
I know. Go ahead.
No, we're doing the movie of the month.
I know. That's what I'm
Yeah,
going.
it sounded like you were signing off.
No, I'm not signing this
It's
up.
like, well, this is the podcast.
Welcome to...
Are you gonna reintroduce?
Right. No, yeah.
All over.
I did skip our intros in the beginning, not intentionally, so I just honestly forgot, and I will go into that after we go into the next movie coming up with it. So we are in an interesting quarter. This coming next 4 weeks, we decided we're gonna throw all cautions to the wind, and we're gonna pick movies that we think are just beloved, even if we don't follow the rules. If two of us haven't seen it, which is the general baseline, that's the one we're gonna be able to pick. This one is just, all right, if we've seen it, great, that's fine. We're picking our favorite movies. We just want to see how far in depth we can pick it apart here at F&M Movie Podcast. And I get to start out the week with Warrior, featuring Joel Edgerton, Tom Hardy.
The one that you're comparing Foxcatcher to.
Yes,
last week.
if you watch
You'll know
Foxcatcher-
why.
It's a 2. I already give it a 2.
All right, so I don't care about Price's opinion on this matter whatsoever, but I am curious what Mason and Nathan will walk away through, and I know Mason loves this movie because we've talked about it at length for at least several times. But I want to catch it on camera for all intents and purposes. So we're picking Warrior into next week's film.
All right.
So make sure to tune in and check us out then. Guys, where can they catch you at? Who are you? Say your
We're
names and
not
plugs.
quite done. just
We're not
yet.
done.
So we're gonna
I said
do
that a
this,
second ago.
Yeah, we're gonna do the whole like every
The
4
rotation.
weeks thing.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what you meant on that one. All right, yeah, so it's not for all
So
that.
we're gonna review these last 4.
Sorry, yeah, we're picking our favorite of the month as of this last cycle. The last cycle being 1 month period of time. So we are at the end of June's into July's. And let's go over the last 4 movies before we do the plugs.
We
So
don't have to do scores.
Dylan had picked The Birdcage, which stars
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. That's
Nathan
the guy.
Lane.
That's
Yep.
the guy.
Mhm.
I had picked Sinister, which has
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. Man, I am
We
killing
got
it.
you.
Killing
We got
it. Foxcatcher, which I think everyone knows, has Steve Carell in it. That was Price's pick.
Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo.
Who?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Get out of here.
And Nathan had just picked Repo Man.
Paris Hilton
Repo.
and
Yeah.
Giles from Buffy.
Only Paris Hilton in it.
Briefly, Joan Jett, uncredited.
Yeah.
Whoa, Alexa Panavega from Spy Kids.
Yeah, and don't
Yeah.
forget Alexa Panavega. For whatever
That's
reason,
the
that's
last.
the name that Mason remembers out of this whole lineup.
Was anybody ready to do their movie that was their favorite for them?
Nathan, let's start with you this
Yeah.
time. Out of the 4,
out of those 4,
You are allowed to pick your favorite that you chose.
I mean,
Agreed.
I would pick Repo Man. Or I'm sorry, you said Repo Man, so you got me
I
thinking.
know.
Repo,
Yeah.
the genetic opera.
I am 90% sure there was a movie called Repo Man that came
there
out about
definitely is a Repo Man
2012.
movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so that's one thing we didn't talk about in
Yeah.
the review is there is another version of it set in the same like world, but is a serious like action dystopian.
Okay.
I had like at one point I did ask you guys if you all would be willing to do like a double feature of two, like conceptually two movies.
Is it the one that I've seen? Is it like
I don't know, but it's the exact same world. It's the whole same idea of
Sure.
guys repoing organs.
I've seen that one. If it's
Yeah.
just about the one guy.
We may say that for like a holiday month or something like that when we have more free time available.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just thinking 2 movies is a lot to throw at us at the same time per week, and then
But yeah, so I would pick Repo, the genetic opera. Sinister was pretty good. I enjoyed Birdcage for what it was, and I did like Foxcatcher pretty well. I know
I think you have to qualify that.
I'm just saying, like, I'm probably the only one that was more on your side with Foxcatcher.
Oh yeah, them two are totally on the other fence, but their scores are weird and don't make
Yeah, I've
sense
seen that
anyway.
makes
But-
sense to educated
good
people
one.
to explain it. But sure. All right, so
I just enjoyed that movie.
I'm also gonna pick Repo. Sinister was good.
Wow.
Like we said multiple
It's gonna
times
be
last
Repo.
week, I think the word simple came out of my mouth quite a bit 2 weeks ago. Repo was just fun. So that's gonna be my pick this month.
Okay.
Mine was easily. I mean, it's Foxcatcher. It's one of the highest rated movies I have. I absolutely love that movie. Birdcage would definitely be my second if we did that. I really like that movie too. And Sinister and Repo would be right down there.
Understood.
I hit the table again.
We did. Certainly did. We notice every time. Every single time. This is hard. I don't know. It's pretty close, but if I have to give it to something, I'll give the nod to Sinister. Sinister is one of those ones where I sat there and I'm like, I'm more likely to rewatch this one again in the next couple of years versus Repo Man. Not Repo Man. Repo the Genetic Opera. Damn.
Got them all hooked.
Oh boy. Now or now we're just gonna watch Repo Man. I'll probably give a tip to Sinister. Again, I mean, as you saw, I liked Repo the Genetic Opera. I of course liked Birdcage, which was a blind pick for me, so I wasn't sure. I hadn't seen it all the way through. But I really enjoyed Birdcage. I loathe Foxcatcher. Don't watch Foxcatcher. That's my review.
He can't understand it. It's all right.
Yeah, clearly.
Too over our heads.
Right.
Just so much plot.
It forces my hand to pick Warrior so I can have some movie in that genre that gets it right. Thank goodness.
Good. I'm glad with your wild card pick, you picked something you're forced to pick. I like this. I did my job.
It brought my hand into sitting here. It was between like 2 or 3, and I was just like, it just has to be this. It's too close to this one right now, and I think that's like the parallel with it. So I don't know. We'll let the viewers decide what their preference is on who's right or wrong. I guess it's not right or wrong. It's opinion, but it's Warrior. So all right. So with
Repo.
with 2 to 1,
2 to Repo.
Repo. Genetic Opera.
There it is.
Nathan surprisingly
Can't
took
believe
this
it.
month.
No, let me tell you.
I did
Let me
not
tell you.
expect that.
Yeah.
Nathan comes into every fight a little wobbly.
Yeah.
No one's got their money on Nathan before they watch his movies, but I tell you, he's won a few times.
Yeah.
This is the only
Is
time.
this
No.
what's the second?
This is the only time.
I don't know.
No,
I've
you
picked
pulled
his
that-
movie about 3 times so far.
I
But
know I
they've
picked.
never won.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
you
always
guys'
been
fault.
You got I think you got like 2 or 3, and we got like.
Scanner Darkly?
Scanner Dark. Yeah.
No,
see-
that's not the one that won that rotation.
No.
Did we
Out
not
of
mark
Kung
which
Fu?
ones?
No.
Oh.
We'll have to watch it.
Earl and the Dying Girl.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That
Oh,
was-
sorry, I just had to hear you
Yeah.
say it.
Ah, he got it with the teams around.
Great. Oh, yeah, Lawnmower Man probably didn't win.
Lawnmower Man definitely did not.
Fifth Element did not win. I think Spirited Away won that one.
Yeah.
And then Crimson Peak probably did not win
Yeah.
against
Penguin Highway won
Highway.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So maybe this is his
Nathan's
first win.
month.
That's what I said.
But I'll tell you, I voted for your boy 3 times.
I know I voted for his, at least come second every time. Like his has
Yeah.
either been right on the point where I voted or just been short of it. So round of applause for Nathan for finally taking the W on this month.
You haven't got one of my votes, I don't think.
He's never once gotten one of Price's votes, which does humor me all the way through.
That's chills me to the core, really, truly.
So again, just to wrap up, we're watching Warrior next week. Same great time, same great place. Guys, introduce yourselves and exit yourselves. Where can they catch you at? Everything like that.
Catch me on Twitter, mrector11. That's all I've got.
That's Mason Rector,
I
everybody.
don't have anything else.
Nathan?
I'm Nathan. You can catch me at the local rock climbing gym.
Yeah. There we go.
Yep. Price?
My name's Price. You can catch me at Rudu Inc. on YouTube.
Follow the geotag from this specific video. This is Bryce's home. He lives here.
Yep.
Nope, just a bunch of girls.
Right here.
Right here.
I'm, of course, your host, Dylan Camacho. You can catch me at CAMACH Octopus at Twitter. That's the only place I really want to talk with y'all. I won't lie to y'all. That's it. That's our show for the night, guys.
All right.
Have a great weekend. Happy 4th. See you next week.
That was fun.